Hello students, this is Dr. Neeru Srivastava, Assistant Professor in English, Government Digvijay Autonomous PG College, Rajnandgaon. How are you? Hope your studies are going on fine. And in my earlier lecture students, we have already talked about A.G. Gardner as an essays, another one on saying please, and one more essay we have dealt with that was on painted face. And today we are going to take up one more very interesting essay of A.G. Gardner, and that is on smiles. So let us smile first to start this essay. And in this essay, A.G. Gardner has taken up the theme of happiness and trust, change and appearance. And this essay has been taken from his collection of essays, Many Furrows. And the theme of happiness pervades throughout the essay. So let us start the essay. We will read the text first and then critical appreciation of it, and then some of the important questions we will discuss. So the text first. So students, let us start the essay on smiles by A.G. Gardner. Firstly, we will have a brief introduction of the essay. In On Smiles, the essayist A.G. Gardner has taken up the theme of happiness, trust, change and appearance. Taken from his Many Furrows collection, the reader realizes after reading the essay that Gardner may be exploring the theme of happiness, or rather the happiness one receives from seeing another person smiling. For Gardner, there is also a difference between a natural smile and one that an individual forces. The natural smile will cheer up another person and make them forget their woes, while people have the ability to see through a forced smile. Now, this is the text of the essay. I'll read out some of the very important passages of this essay and explain them to you students. So the essay starts with, if I were to be born into this world again and had the choice of my endowments, I should arrange very carefully about my smile. There is nothing so irresistible as the right sort of a smile. It is better than the silver spoon in the mouth. It will carry you anywhere and win you anything, including the silver spoon. It disarms your enemies and make them forget that they have a grudge against you. I have a great many reasons for disliking you, said a well-known public man to a friend of mine the other day, but when I am with you, I can never remember what they are. So this is the magic of smile actually. And A.G. Gardner starts the essay with a beautiful statement that if he is given a new birth and if he were to born into this world again, he would definitely love to have birth with a beautiful smile on my face, because there is nothing so precious which is like that of a smile on a person's face. He says that it is even better than the silver spoon in your mouth. That means however money you will be having or however rich person you are, if you don't have a smiling face, there is no sense of having that much of money and richness. It disarms your enemies and make them forget that they have a grudge against you. Gardner said that if you have a smiling face, even your enemies are disarmed and they forget all their grudges, all their complaints against you. And he gives an example of one of his friends who had many reasons of disliking his friend, but because of his beautiful smiling face, he forgets everything when he is with him. It was the flash of sunshine that did for him. He could not preserve his hostility in the presence of the other's disarming smile and gay good humor. He just yielded up his sword and sunned himself in the pleasant weather that the other carried with him like an atmosphere. So a beautiful smile is like a beautiful atmosphere actually. It changes the environment. It, it, it brings positive vibes to the environment. So that is the beauty of a smile. At the bar, of course, a pleasant address is worth a fortune. I suppose there has been no more successful figure in the law of force in our time than Rufus Isaac, but I fancy he won as many of his victory by the debonair smile with which he eradicated the courts as by his law. And he just refers to one of the great judges of England, Mr. Rufus Isaac, who was a very respectable judge, but he says that I fancy that he won many of his cases because of his stylish smile with which he eradicated the courts as by his law. You can see the judge on the bench and the jury in the box basking in the warmth that he shed around them. Even the judges sitting on the bench or the jury in the box, they all used to bask in the warmth of his smile. They all used to have enjoyment. They all used to enjoy the beautiful smile of that Russell judge. The weather might be as harsh as applied outside, but here the sky was clear and the sun was shining genially. So, however disturbance there may be, however the circumstances may be difficult, but if you are smiling, the sky will always be clear and the sun will always be shining genially for you. It was a fine day, and the only blot on the landscape was the unhappy counsel for the other side, who thumped on the table and got red in the face as he saw his client's case melting away like snow before a south wind. And among politicians, it is notorious that a popular smile is the shortest cut to the great heart of democracy. And A.G. Gardner says here that we have seen normally that all the politicians, they keep on smiling, but that smile is a notorious one, because for the politician a smile is the shortcut to the great victory of on the heart of the people in a democracy. Then he gives a reference of Mr. Lloyd George. Mr. Lloyd George was a British statesman, and he says, in an estimate of the qualities that have contributed to Mr. Lloyd George's amazing success, a high place would have to be given to the twinkling smile, so merry and mischievous, so engagingly frank, and so essentially secret and calculating, with which by the help of the photographer he has irradiated his generation. So that smiling face he has preserved to be carried forward to the coming generation with the help of a photographer, means by just taking a snap of his beautiful smiling face. He has preserved that smile for the coming generation. And really the first rate smiles, rare for the most part, our smiles add little to our self-expression. If we are dull, they are dull. If we are sinister, they are only little more sinister. If we are smug, they only emphasize our smugness. If, like the Lord High, everything else, we were born sneering, our smile is apt to be a sneer too. So he says that even the smiles are of different expression. Even the smiles have different expressions according to the different moods of a person. If you are dull, your smile will be dull. If you are sinister, if you are evil-minded, your smile will be evil. If you are smug, that means if you are self-contented, if you are very happy with yourself, then your smile will be full of smugness. And everything else, we were born sneering, our smile is apt to be sneer too. So all smiles are not alike. They are different in nature as per the mood of the person who is smiling, or the temperament of the person who is smiling. If we were terrible like Swift, we shall have terrible smile. Only rarely do we light upon the smile that is a revelation. Then he says that Harry Lauder's smile. Harry Lauder was a Scottish comedian and singer. His smile is like a national institution or a natural element. It is plentiful enough to fill the world. He was such a great comedian, and his smile was so spontaneous that it was enough to fill the whole world with its vibrance. It is a continuous and abundant feast that requires neither words nor chorus, and when he laughs, you can no more help feeling happy than he can. Then he takes the example of Lord Balfour. Lord Balfour, he was a conservative politician in Scotland. His smile is also famous in another way. It has the untroubled sweetness of a child. That means very innocent smile, and there are a few who can resist its charm, but it is elusive and seems too much like a mask that has little to do with the real man. But somewhere there was little artificiality, or like a mask which he has just put on his face than the original one. Then he says the most memorable smiles are those which have the quality of the unexpected. That means spontaneous, when you don't expect a person to smile and he smiles all of a sudden. That is the most memorable smile, he says, according to A.G. Gardner. He says a smile that is habitual rarely pleases, for it suggests policy, and the essence of a smile is its spontaneity and lack of deliberation. So a person who is all the time smiling, that is also not very much effective, because it becomes his habit. So the people are accustomed to see him smiling all the time. But a person who smiles very rarely, that smile is spontaneous and without any deliberation, that is very effective, and it has a deep impact on others. Archbishop Temple said that he hated people who were always smiling, and then looking across the luncheon table at the vicar, who had been doing his best to ingratiate himself with the terrible prelate, added, "Look at the vicar there, he is always smiling." So the people who are all the time smiling, they are also looked upon by others. Then it was a cruel affront, but the smile that has the quality of an artifice is hard to bear. That means a smile, if it is artificial, not natural, then that is also very much unbearable by the people. But it is no use for those of us who have only humdrum smiles to attempt to set up a smile that is an incantation. Smiles, like poets, are born and not made. He says that smiles are born, not made. That means smile should be natural. It should not be artificial or adopted. If they are made, they are not smiles but grimaces. And if you have to make yourself smiling, that means that is not real smile. That is just grimaces and convicts us on the spot. They are simply an attempt to circulate false news. There is no remedy for us of the negligible smile, but to be born again and to be born different, not outside but within, for the smile is the only publication of the inward spirit. Yes, that means if your spirit is happy, you will definitely have a smiling face. So your smile is the publication of your inward happiness. So it comes from inside. Actually, it's not only the face which smiles, actually it is your soul which smiles. The smiles that dwell in the mind most are those that break suddenly like sunshine from the unexpected places. So that is the most beautiful sort of smile. That was the quality of the curiously wistful smile that played over aesthetic features of Lord Morley. Lord Morley, he was a political writer of England. You could forgive all his asperities when he smiled. and all his cunningness was forgotten by people when he used to smile. He had such a beautiful smile. But the most delightful example of the unexpected smiles that I know is that of the pianist Frederick Lament. He was a pianist, he used to play piano, and his smile is one of the wonderful smiles of the world. The intensity of his countenance forbids the suggestions of a smile, and at the piano he seems to descend into unfathomable depths of gravity and spiritual remoteness. That means when he plays piano and he keeps on smiling, he actually goes deep into the depth of gravity and spiritual remoteness. But when the piece is over and the house breaks out into thunders of applause, and even the audience is so much spellbound with the piano that he plays, that when his piece of music is complete, there is a complete thunders of applause by the audience. He emerges from the depths with a smile that suggests that the land of Beulah has broken on his side. Land of Beulah is a beautiful place. So the whole atmosphere, the whole environment is changed with the beauty of that music as well as his smile. So this is the essay on smiles, and here A.G. Gardner has emphasized the value of a pure smile. Let us now have the critical appreciation of On Smiles. In On Smiles, which is written by A.G. Gardner, we have seen that he has dealt with the theme of happiness, trust, change and appearance. The essay has been taken from his collection of the essays Many Furrows. Here Gardner is trying to explore the theme of happiness, or rather the happiness one receives from seeing another person smile. For Gardner, there is a difference between a natural smile and one that an individual forces. The natural smile will cheer up another person and make them forget their woes, while the people can easily make out a forced smile. A fake smile lacks the equality of trust. It is easier for an individual to trust a person who smiles naturally, as they are able to disarm any criticism that the individual may have about the person's character. It is as though a person with a natural smile is able to change how another person feels. But with a forced smile, an individual is being deceitful, and people can see this for themselves. A forced or fake smile leaves a person suspicious of the individual who is smiling, and as such their guard will be up because they cannot trust the individual. So a forced or fake smile is never not something which the people can rely upon. What is also interesting about the essay is the fact that Gardner believes that a smile comes from inwards. It may be reflected outwards, but in reality is something that comes from inside the person themselves. It is for this reason that a natural smile is more trusting and has the ability to disarm a person. It is also likely that this is the reason that Gardner wishes that he could relive his life all over again, to be a new person, as he may have the natural skepticism that comes with life, and as such his smile may be no more than a grimace which would not be endearing to people. Gardner also argues that the habitual smile is not pleasing to an individual as it lacks spontaneity. This may be significant that Gardner could be suggesting that those who smile permanently can not only be distrusted, but they may also have something to hide. Attempting to disarm before conflict, a conflict which all parties may be aware of, a constant smile is not only annoying to Gardner, but it also suggests that the individual is hiding something. The importance of a smile can also not be underestimated, particularly if one is a politician. With Gardner quoting the success of Theodore Roosevelt as an example, Roosevelt's smile, according to Gardner, may have helped him to be a successful statesman. The smile bringing a sense of ease to those who observed it. A matter that should be important for a politician. Should a politician never smile, there is every chance that the electorate will not vote for him or her, and as such the politician will be forced to look for another career. So he has to smile, one that will suit their appearance. A good smile, in Gardner's opinion, will only carry a man or woman a long way. One can go from rags to riches by simple ability to have a smile that is contagious. By making another person smile, not only are you making them happy, but you are also showing them that you are not a threat in any way which would hinder a person's passage through life. To move forward in life, one has to be trusted, and a good smile will go a long way in helping an individual progress through life. In reality, a good natural smile will help an individual to change another person's viewpoint of them. A person will forget why they dislike the individual, and matters will be resolved more quickly should there be any conflict between either party. The example of Rufus Isaac is also interesting, as he appears to have the juries in front of him in the palm of his hand. Isaac radiates confidence, but not overtly so. He smiles enough to disarm others while at the same time keeping his focus on his client as well, all by having a natural and confident smile. While others who force their smile or permanently smile are deemed to be less trustworthy, and this issue would be of great importance to a lawyer. If anything, Gardner may be suggesting that those who smile naturally and confidently have an easier time than those who might force a smile. An individual can see through another person's smile, and if it is honest and engaging, then that individual is won over for the time being. It is probably for this reason that Gardner wishes he could be born all over again, to learn in a natural way how to smile and to beam confidence and to be able to disengage others. He wishes to take a new birth. Thus, to sum up, we can say that A.G. Gardner, in a very convincing manner, has discussed the value and the effect of a genuine smile on the face of a person. A smiling face not only keeps oneself cheerful, but scatters its fragrance to all the people around him as well. The only condition required is that it should be pure and from the heart, not artificial or a fake one. So, students, I hope you would have understood the value of a true smile and must have read thoroughly the essay and its explanation. Now, there are some questions which are asked on this particular essay, that is only we can discuss. Mainly there are two questions. One is examine critically the essay on smile by A.G. Gardner, and another is discuss A.G. Gardner as an essay. These two are important questions that can be framed on this essay, and the students, you should prepare them well. So all the very best to all of you, dear students, for your examination. We will meet in another lecture soon. Till then, bye and good luck.